Start now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to welcome you all tonight. I'm Renette, and I will be moderating the event with Juliette. So tonight we're going to talk about the youth within the Palestinian resistance. And we thought it was going to be really interesting for French students to be able to have a discussion with students from Palestine and to learn about the ongoing situation there and the challenges they face. So I hope we will have a rich discussion. I will quickly present the AFPS. So I'm an intern at the Association France-Palestine Solidarité, which is one of the biggest solidarity organization with Palestine, which has over 5,000 adherents and more than 100 local groups from all around France. And we mostly do grassroots activities, try to mobilize the French population, and also do some political lobbying at the national level. And we also support the popular mobilization and resistance in Palestine. So I will just let Ines from the FFIPP to introduce the FFIPP, which is co-organizing this event.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ines from FFIPP Bordeaux, and I will introduce very briefly FFIPP. So FFIPP, which entire name is FFIPP Educational Network for Human Rights in Israel and Palestine, is an international academic association aiming at raising awareness about the situation in Israel and Palestine. So FFIPP is an association made up of students only, and that is present in many countries over the world, especially in Europe, the United States, and Brazil. And as FFIPP Bordeaux, we are a local chapter of FFIPP Europe, which entitles us to take part to the summer program that takes place every year directly in Israel and Palestine. And apart from this grounded experience, we also we are very active during the year. We organize a lot of conferences and some sorts of events, and we also, especially in these times of sanitary crisis, produce a lot of digital content on the social media. So I encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram if it's not already the case, and if you want to know more about what we do on a regular basis. Now I will let the word to Juliette and Renette, and wish you a very good conference.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Juliette, member of Board of Palestine 33. This is one of the 100 association of AFPS. Palestine 33 is a committee to support the Palestinian people in their struggle for territorial sovereignty and national independence. A big thanks to all the participants who joined us. We wish you a good lecture. Then I'm going to introduce you all the speakers you're going to meet pretty soon. We are glad to invite these three speakers. Unfortunately, death of other relatives took place during the night. She was the fourth speaker, but she's not able to make herself available to speak with us this evening, and we wish her all the comfort for her and her family. So first, we have Dana Faraj. She's a legal researcher and has been certified lawyer at the Palestinian Bar Association since 2019. She obtained her master's degree in international humanitarian from Aix-Marseille University and her bachelor's degree in law from Birzeit University, which is a university established in 1924, close to Ramallah in the West Bank. And she's also involved in Al-Shaqaba, which means networks in Arab. The mission of this Palestinian policy network is to educate and foster public debate on Palestinian human rights and self-determination within the framework of international law. We have also the honor to welcome the only man who is Sami. He's 23 years old. Currently is a student of international law in Hebron University, which is a public university in the city of Hebron in the West Bank. At the same time, he's the coordinator of Youth of Sumud group, and it's set out in Hebron's hills to resist settler colonialism, throughout farming. But he's going to talk about it better than I am, I guess. We end the presentation with Somaya Abu Nada. She is 26 years old. She has a master's degree in translation studies, bachelor's degree in English literature, and a diploma in English education. She used to be an English trainer for about 3 years and a freelance translator. She joined We Are Not Numbers at the beginning of 2020 of this year as a volunteer writer. This platform is implemented to help developing writers in Gaza share their story and attract attention of both their beauty and their tragedy. Recently, she signed as an activity coordinator. So then I'm giving you the floor to Renette to give you a quick overview of the conference proceedings.
I just want to let you know that we will be dividing the event into two main parts. So we will start by discussing the ongoing situation for students in Palestine and the challenges they face. And we will then talk more about our speaker engagement within the youth resistance. I just have to make a quick security disclaimer. If we have any issue tonight with people trying to get into meeting that we prefer them not to be there, we will have to cut everything down and we will be reorganizing the meeting later. That is said, if you have any questions during the meeting, you can ask them on the chat to the person named questions. So I think that's all. So I will maybe start by asking a first question. So I would like to ask you about the impact the occupation had on your personal life and your studies and the challenges you face at the moment. So maybe Somaya, would you like to start?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to summarize the impact of occupation in my life and study by telling my experience here in Gaza. Well, it all started when I was 5 years old. I used to imagine airstrikes as sugar cans flying down from the sky because the Arabic word qasab, which means sugar cans, and qasif, which mean airstrikes, have similar pronunciation. Back then, the idea itself was satisfying to me till I grow up and I understood the fact that we are occupied by Israel, which is built upon our land, and sugar cans are weapons of destruction that are used to mass killing the Palestinian. There were three significant sentences in my childhood. The first, the one that we live in occupied country, and Israeli forces invaded our land and displaced its residents, and we are refugees. That was a lot to process with back then, especially my status as a refugee. I had to wear refugees uniform and go to Norway schools for 9 years. Well, we face death every day, and living life haunted by death is exhausting. Whenever we think that we have to move forward, this phantom pulls us 2 steps back. In my city, Gaza, there is a war after each war without sirens or soldiers, war with no actually parties. It launches with our day in the morning, in the first ray. And when it started with this main question, we ask ourselves why we are alive and what is it so special of our existence. And we stand up despite this heavy burden of questions and started to fight the day. And next day also started with the same question. And I ensure myself that I will find the answer if I just wake up. To me, 2008 aggression on Gaza was a turning point in my life. It was the finish line of my childhood and the time when I dealt with an adult matter in life, which is death. And that war, I lost my uncle, and I convinced myself that he traveled somewhere else and he will come back one day. Israel long-term plan is designed to kill us slowly. Whenever we go, the siege cuts our wings and traps the little cloud of hope that hovering over our heads. Life in Gaza is quite similar to the famous series, if you know, the Maze Runner series, where the characters spend the whole movie trying to escape the maze, only to find themselves in another maze, another loops that lead to more dangerous and challenging events in their life, which is presented in our Gaza for the shortage of opportunities and the shortage of electricity, which prevent us from doing our researches and living normally life. Also, the blockage on Gaza consumes our powers and narrows our ceiling of dreams. The siege is a raper, feeds on our ambitions and our ambition, passion, and happiness. It leaves us with a dozen of possibilities. Living without a future here is the worst of them. For me, as a master's student, I still figuring which topic can be available to me to conduct my thesis. I had to change my title for almost 3 times because the lack of resources, and of course because of the siege. Occupation and siege is like an ongoing nightmare for the graduates here or for the youth in general. Because the people who are seeking for new opportunities and new horizon on Gaza are outside Gaza. They are faced a huge wall, which is the siege, and it's needless to mention the graduates who are restored to the illegal immigration, and they end up drowned in a refugee. Drowned in the oceans or trapped in refugee camps. So these are our daily struggling, which we facing every day, and many of us like lost hope, but we still fighting till this moment. I think so.
Maybe I will let Sami speak now.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Sami. I am from a village called Twani in the South Hebron Hills, south of West Bank. Maybe I would like to ask you, Ranit, if you can start the video that I would like to show, and then I can continue my speak to explain about it and to answer all the questions. It's good here from Okay, hi again, everyone. This is this video that I took last Wednesday. This video is part of our daily life under occupation. South Hebron Hills area, at least weekly, face this kind of demolition campaign by the Israeli occupation forces against the homes of the Palestinians in this area. I would like to come back again to since 1948, when my grandparents were evicted from south of Palestine, from Beersheba in 48. Then after they were expelled from their homes and from their land, they became a refugee, and then they, in the end, they settled in the South Hebron Hills in the village of Atwani. After that, occupation didn't stop. The occupation didn't stop until Palestine in 48, but started also in Palestine 67, in the West Bank. The Israelis started to apply as well after 67 the Israeli military law against the Palestinian people in the West Bank and in the South Hebron Hills, particularly after very quick. Because West Bank is separated to 3 areas: Area A under Palestinian Authority control, and Area B that is kind of both controlled by service by the PA and military and by the Israeli occupation, and then Area C that is the percent of the West Bank that is considered Area C that is under the Israeli military control. So the Israeli occupation is continue to apply the extremist military law on the Palestinian people and the Palestinian citizens in the area C, and particularly South Hebron Hills that is considered area C. So for that, we are having weekly demolition, because the main goal is to demolish again all the houses of the Palestinian in this area, and to expel all the Palestinian from this area, and to annexate this area of the South Hebron Hills to the 48, but without Palestinian, that they want to evict all the Palestinian to be in area A. To surround all Palestinian in really small containers and small cities. This is the main policy. In 2006, the Israeli occupation started to build a discrimination wall that was separating South Hebron Hills area from all the other cities, Hebron and Dahriya and Yatta. This is a completely apartheid policy that since that, really briefly, the popular resistance started in the South Hebron Hills, resisting this occupation. My father was the leader of this demonstration to demolish this wall. Really, after 2 years that of ongoing resistance, weekly demonstration, blocking these highways, we managed and we succeeded to demolish this wall. But the Israeli occupation policies continue to evict different Palestinian villages in the South Hebron Hills and demolish the villages. And it was completely obligation transfer, to demolish total villages and to transport people in trucks, in military trucks, and really throw them in another area out of their area. So for me, I grew up since my childhood in this condition, because as well, South Hebron Hills, part of our area, considered military area, that the Israeli occupation forces train their soldiers in our area and on us as a Palestinian who are living in this area. I remember when I was 5 and 6 years old, the Israeli soldiers invading our houses in the middle of the night, terrorizing us, searching the houses. And all of this was under the pretext of, training the Israeli soldiers on us as a Palestinian living in our land and in our villages. As we can, as well for me, and during the school growing up of my colleagues that were coming from different villages to come to study in our school in Twani, because we are the only school in the area, in my village, who are passing daily by illegal settlements who are established on our confiscated land. Those settlers, especially the extremist settlers that are attacking them, even the children on their way to school. For example, when I was at school, one classmate of me came to the class with the blood going out from her head while the settlers were attacking them in their way coming to the school. This is like the daily life and the childhood that we growed up under the occupation in our area. Our school as well got a demolishing order to be demolished, but thanks God, by our struggle and by our steadfastness, it wasn't demolished and still exists until today. We are talking about the impact of the occupation on our, for example, I would like to talk personally about my university life. I am very late right now. I supposed to graduate last year. I has been in prison because I was preventing the settler and protecting my home from the settler that are raiding on my house. I has been arrested and has been for a while in jail. I lost one semester because of that. Then after that, this has happened in 2017, and in 2018 I had an accident attack by the settlers that drove in against me, and I had a completely broken leg. I had to stay for months not able to walk. And another time I lost one semester. This is like for now that finally I am having my graduation research this semester because of I am 1 year late because of this is just because of the impact of the occupation on my life and on other Palestinian, the same like me, because of the daily struggle trip to reach at least the universities, passing by checkpoints that's controlling our movement, humanitizing, like you feel like they treat you as you are not a human, without dignity, particularly in the checkpoint I'm talking about. You are late for your school, you're for your lecture, and ongoing. This policy is ongoing every day. Like that, it didn't finish, but it's still going on. We are, Palestinian. We believe in our right, and we believe in our struggle. That we will end this occupation one day. That is. Completely, we are not living not normal life under this occupation. Is completely violating all the international agreements and all the international laws. And we will for sure our message, particularly for the Palestinian in the South Hebron Hills, when we talk about that they are every week demolishing almost in our area, but that will mean that their goal is that to evict us and to go then to displace, to bring us out of our land. But we will keep saying that this is our land and we will never leave our land despite all of this occupation policies, and we will continue to resist this occupation. We are talking about, I am a coordinator of youth activist group that was established in 2017. Our activity is daily activity on the ground, on supporting, helping, especially the Palestinians which is their house is demolished, to help to rebuild these houses again, because then after the house is demolished, people are without shelter. Talking about organizing demonstration, talking about going back to live inside evicted Palestinian villages by the occupation, to recreate the life in those villages, to protect these villages from being confiscated and by the occupation. We are talking about other activities in the other places of the West Bank. Now we are accompanying the children that they are coming to school every day, to manage to bring them safe to school and to bring them back to their homes. This is almost all our everyday activity. And right now it's school. And right now this is also winter. It's completely crazy condition. But as I mentioned before, that the title of the Palestinian in the South Hebron Hills and all Palestine, never give up and ongoing resistance. I'm sorry if I took so long.
It's fine. Thank you, Sami, for your speech, and I'm sure that if you have question, you can ask them in the chat to the person named question. I will now let Dana speak.
Okay, thank you, Renette. Thank you very much for the invitation, which is of particular importance for me to talk with French students, as I did my master's in France in international law. I am Dana Faraj. I studied my bachelor degree in Birzeit University, where I am working now as a researcher. Studying international law for me was my objective since I was in school. Not because I think that the international law would be the only tool to achieve our rights, our inalienable rights and our self-determination. However, I believe that international law, it is a must to understand, in order to understand the international order and the power relations. Maybe before start talking about the right to education and the students in prisons, we can show a small video and then I will continue my speech. Thank you, Renat. Actually, when I was during my bachelor degree in Birzeit, I was part of the student council and the student activities in the university. And many of my colleagues were arrested based on their activism in the university. And last year was very significant due to the mass campaign of detention for several students, females and males of Birzeit in particular, Birzeit University. And many of the women Palestinian students that were arrested was subjected to several torture, psychological and physical torture, sexual violence as well, beatings, insults, threats, and body searches. And I should say that we celebrate today the liberation of Mais Abu Ghosh, who appeared in the video, after she spent 15 months in Israeli jails, in which she was subjected to several torture in an investigation for 30 days. And nowadays we have around 80 students of Birzeit University alone in the Israeli prisons. And actually the imprisonment of the Palestinian students are only one part of the ongoing denial of Palestinians' right to education. As Israeli colonization regime uses different and several methods, such as denying the professors, international professors from the entry to Palestine who are hired by our universities. Another method is for 48 students who are in Israel. They are taught a curriculum that is fundamentally denies their history and identity. Actually, for Israel, all the Palestinian political parties are considered as illegal organizations, and as Al-Damir Association for the prisoners and the human rights, Palestinian student unions have not escaped the Israeli efforts to criminalize all the political, cultural, and civil life for the students. In consequences, you can see that attending a rally on the university for an unlawful association or an association that have ties to an unlawful association for Israel, such as putting posters on the walls, writing, producing, printing, or distributing any publication related to the declared unlawful association could be an accusation for the student and is considered as in danger for the security of the state of Israel. In some cases, a student can be indicted for a charge that he was part of a dancing, for dancing the dabka, the Palestinian traditional folkloric dance. It is very unreasonable and very ridiculous, and he or she could be condemned for 6 months or even 1 year, or being put in administrative detention. Actually, I would like now to read a small piece of a letter that was sent by women student prisoners in Ad-Damun prison in Haifa. I quote, "To our colleagues at Birzeit University, we send our love and longing to you and appreciate all your efforts. Every action and every word, even if it is small, sustains our souls and supports us more every day. We hope that we will meet soon on the grounds of Birzeit University, and our love and thanks to all students and supporters wherever they are. Haifa, Dalit al-Karmel, Ad-Damun prison, section 3, room 3, Layan Kayed, Mais Abu Ghosh, Ruba Asi, Ilya Abu Hijle." This letter was sent 2 months ago by these women students. And thank you. We can continue later in the second question.
Thank you all. All the participants, do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat to the person who called question. After the second presentation session, the speaker will be able to answer you. For the second session of presentation, we thought it would be really interesting to have a short speech of the organization you are involved in, to hear from your action in Palestinian occupied territories. Then it could be great to get your testimony on the impact of your mobilization to fight the walls and the border, or more generally the youth struggles, you know, around you, and if there are positive effects. So Sami, maybe you can talk first.
Yeah, sure. Again, I would like to mention about the activities that we are doing right now. Youth of Samud, since the establishing of the group and until today, we are occupying Palestinian evicted village called Sarura in the South Hebron Hills. This village is about caves that the Palestinians used to live inside. It's an entire village. different caves, and the occupation evicted all the people from there. But in 2017, we went back again to live inside this village and to recreate the life inside it again, and to encourage the Palestinians who left to come back to their land. Through different activity, 24 hours of presence, the daily, like almost living there. It's our center there in the caves, planting the land, really completely changing all the life there, creating a big weather of encouraging the people to come back to their land. And we are already succeed that we are now most of the time the people are around us in the village, that they are working with us, involving them with the activity. And this is one of the main important goals, that we really bring back all the attention to the land and to protect the land. Right now we are just finishing, it's not finished yet, sorry. We are still running on in a campaign with different youth from West Bank. Particularly, it started in the beginning of October, supporting and protecting the Palestinian farmers who are harvesting their olives, especially in the area that is really targeted by the occupation, and especially the farmer who are most of the time under the attack of the Israeli extremist settlers against the Palestinians, against the crop. Our campaign it's called Faz'a, in order to really all the time when there is settler attack, to be in the front line to protect the farmer. It continued for 1 month, and now the campaign is continuing, particularly in the Jordan Valley. We are facing a lot of demolishing in Humsa, that we went there to help to rehabilitate, to rebuild the homes of the people that was demolished by the Israeli occupation, and going on. Different other activities that we are doing every day that is helping really a lot the people, particularly in the South Hebron Hills, the shepherds who are going to graze on their land that is near on the illegal settlements that built on the Palestinian confiscated land, to support them in the right to access to their land, to be all the time with them in order if there is any attack to try to protect them. This is our activity that we every day organize, and in the next morning we go through in different fields. And I'm talking about as well one of our main activity I mentioned before, that is the school children. That is every day that we are accompanying with international presence in order that they are able to reach school safe and to go back again to their home again also safe. We are also every day documenting all the time documenting the demolishing crime and the crime of the occupation and the violation of the human rights of the occupation against the Palestinian, especially because we are from this area of the South. We are most of the time focusing in all the area of the South. We are trying to write down all of these data of the occupation violation in our area. We are trying to bring also more media attention to the area, to really, we managed, like, for example, to reach some consulate to come to the area in order, that we believe it's also important that they will create, a kind of a pressure at least, or in the Israeli occupation, at least to make less or to stop this, really to stop all this violation of the occupation against the Palestinians in the South and in all West Bank and all Palestine. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Nami. You seems to be very committed, and your actions was implemented are very powerful. Maybe Dana, you can take the floor. Secondly.
Maybe I would start answering the question by the second part of it, as for the future of the Palestinian youth resistance. For me, the future of the Palestinian resistance should be created by all the youth, the Palestinian youth in all over the world. As you know, the Palestinian people are fragmented in 4 areas in West Bank, including Jerusalem, Gaza, 48 lands, which is recognized today as Israel, and Palestinian in the exile, whether they are in refugee camps or in Arab countries or in Europe or in the Americas. So any future should be created by all the Palestinian people to achieve our rights and our self-determination in the Palestinian territory that was colonized since 48. Actually, I would like to talk about a particular campaign that we started last February. It was for collective punishment and in particular for the home demolition, the punitive home demolition. We were a group of Palestinian and international lawyers, activists and human rights defenders. This campaign was launched against the Israeli crime of the systematic Israeli crime of demolishing the homes of the Palestinian freedom fighters who were assassinated or imprisoned for their resistance actions. And at the heart of this crime, we can see that the home demolition leave civilians homeless and in extreme difficult economic situation. And we know that this campaign was not to stop the demolition of homes, as we know all that Israel is a settler colonial state that is using crimes, ongoing crimes to erase the Palestinian wherever they are. But we all know also that the home demolition is part of the collective punishment that is a crime in international humanitarian law, in international human rights, and in customary international law. So maybe we can use these tools of international the international tools just to advocate for our rights and to hold Israel accountable, even if we know that the international law is based on the power relations. Actually, the collective punishment and the home demolitions was intensified since 2015, and it is based on the emergency regulations of the British mandate since 1945. And Israel continues to use it against Palestinians. And as you all know that since March, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus as a pandemic and recommended that every person should keep home. Since that, Israel has demolished about 5 homes for political prisoners. And for example, Qassam al-Barghouthi, Walid Hanatche, and this was in the midst of the breakout of Corona. And I think that you all know what is a home for a family. It is usually highly appreciated for the personal space for each of us. Home where the heart is, where the memories and where safety is. So actually Israel do not care about any of these international conventions or regulations. And it is really painful for us to see that our homes built with the sweat and toil of our families for generations to be destroyed by the Zionist Israeli apparatus. But most importantly, we in the campaign repeats for always that what the mothers say. They can only demolish the stones, not our memory or our resistance. We will build and rebuild again and continue our struggle until freedom and our self-determination. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you. Somaya, I'm leaving you the floor.
Yes, okay. According to the first part of the question, I think the only available option for us as a Gazans is not to quit talking and presenting our case, because writing is a one form of resistance. So we are not numbers, which is the organization I work for, was established upon this idea. So let me briefly talk about our organization, since it devotes its power to defeat the Palestinian case and fight the occupation by revealing the truth. We Are Not Numbers is a group of Palestinian writers and artists from Lebanon and Palestine, team up with mentors around the world to tell the human stories behind in the news. It seeks to make the voice of Palestinian people heard by the whole world, and by it shares and celebrates the Palestinian in the occupied and refugee camps with more experience, author mentorings the writer. For the mission of We Are Not Numbers is to empower the Palestinian youth and enable them to get their own voices heard. It provides the world with direct access to the Palestinian narrative directly with restrictions or foreign representation to speakers on their behalf. And we, as we are not numbers, developing English writers from occupied Palestinian territories or countries of refugee with native speakers mentored from around the world. And the mentors teach them on their language writing skills, and the project publish their essays, poems, and relates their life education to educate the Western's audience and build the bridges based on a great understanding. And I think a process in this process we encourage freedom of expression and civil engagement as we use the art of writing to help youth. Youth is struggling with the same challenging networks with each and build support system. From my experience with them, at the beginning of this year, I joined them with 59 trainees as writers, and we had an intensive training about creative writing, international law, and academic writing. The training was conducted by local and international mentors. At this project, I was able to write 3 articles. Each one of them reflects an important event in Palestine in the Palestinian history. The first one. The first one is talking about Al-Nakba, which describes the catastrophe and the massacres that happened in 1948. And the second one describes the 3 destructive wars on Gaza. And the last one is about a father who lost his home and children because of the shortage of electricity. And by the end, I was signed as the activity coordinator for We Are Not Numbers. And We Are Not Numbers leaves no occasion for the Palestinian without mentioning it. It covers the whole history of Palestine in the shape of stories, articles, and webinars, poems, and even events. Like it devoted a whole day to describe an event that marks the same day. For example, Al-Nakba, and the first war and second war and third war on Gaza. And their goal is to develop language and media storytelling skills Palestinian youth need to speak and about our case, and to provide supportive creative environment to promote positive mental health, and in which the participants build and leadership, teamwork, and critical thinking and creative writing. Through the past 5 years, we could publish 155 stories and poems, and place 20 articles to weigh in external media. And we have provided 12 video in the life of in Gaza, such as the life in camps and out in camps and here in Gaza, and the great marches on the borders. And of course, we are planning this month to recruit about 30 new participants to prepare them to be a good prepared writers to express our case. And for the second part of the question, I believe in youth, in the power of youth and their ability to change. And producing a generation of writers is essential for our existence as a Palestinian, because I'm convinced that as long as we write about our land and about our struggle, our case will stay alive. And I see that our youth are becoming more aware about their case and their role of speaking of defeating defeating our case here in Palestine. So yes.
Thank you, Somaya.
You are welcome.
Thank you all for all your testimony. It was really...
Annette, you can speak a bit louder, please.
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Left.
Maybe my connection has an issue. I will try to remove my camera. Hope you can hear me better now.
Let's start.
Paul, and to ask you some, maybe then Juliette take the floor.
Yes,
if no one can.
I can. So thank you to all for your interventions. So maybe we can ask you some questions. The first question is, as French students and soon professional, is there a way for us to help Palestinians in our professional life? And do you think international aid and volunteer is helpful or not? Maybe as you want. Then
I can
Sami, you want to?
I can start, yes, I can answer. We are, as a Palestinian, we are calling for advocacy, and advocacy means that we want everyone to stand with the Palestinian people for our fair case and for our fair really cause. That means everyone can support the Palestinian issue with whatever he can. We are starting about, first thing, really the truth of the Palestinian cause of the establishing since 48, establishing Israel on Palestine, and until today, all this truth is to be known by people transport that from each one to another one, and we are talking about the occupation crime that is happening every day, to transport it to the people, to the world, to see what's going on in Palestine, and everyone to be. This is very important thing for us to continue to follow the Palestinian cause, and we are talking about the solidarity campaign, to be part of it. For example, with BDS, with everyone to be, everyone can be part of that, even when he is outside. For Israel has attended many crimes against the Palestinian. Everyone must, support that Israel must be judged in the International Criminal Court in that, and even with each law student that graduated and in their life, in their future life work, can also support the Palestinian in that, in order, because Israel can't be above the law. And we are talking about the like, for example, the solidarity, and for example the volunteering activists who is visiting in Palestine, who are volunteering for different activities, who are participating demonstration, who are supporting in media, who are, all of this is always important, is always welcome. And in Palestine, everyone he can take his role in order, since he got in here to volunteer and to help and to give solidarity. Okay, I hope it's understandable.
Thank you, Sami. I wanted to ask you a question, because I think some people in the audience might not know really well about the political situation in Palestine at the moment. So maybe if some of you wants to explain a bit how it works and tell us if you feel represented and if you trust a political representative for the Palestinian resistance. Maybe Dana or Somaya, you want to?
Okay, this is a very tricky question, actually. Well, I prefer first of all to reply for the first question for the French students, what you can do and how the solidarity movement can support the Palestinian cause. Actually, I think that there's many methods and tools to support the Palestinian cause and our just rights. One of them is the boycott movement for Israel, which could be an academic boycott, cultural boycott, and the boycott, the economical boycott. Actually, there is also other ways, such as to pressure on the French government to liberate, for example, George Abdallah, who is a Lebanese prisoner in the French jails since 37 years, and he should be he should be released since 20 years actually. So this is another way, and I know that there is many associations in the French universities who talk for Palestine, who do such webinars like this one to talk about the reality of the Palestinian cause and the roots of this cause. Maybe in international sphere now we are talking about just Palestinian state on 67 lands, which represent 20% of the historical Palestinian lands. And we all know that Israel, as Sami said, was established on the whole territory of Palestine in 48, and which represent a case of colonization, even if it is not recognized in international law as a colonization. But we Palestinians do represent it as a case of colonial regime in Palestine. And as you know, that Palestinians suffer in all the areas of Palestine, such different suffering. In Gaza, people live under siege since 2007. In West Bank, it's a different also way, and in 48 land, it's also a totally different way of suffering. But we all Palestinians, and also the refugees outside of Palestine, we are all Palestinians and have only a one case, a one cause. For the representation, I think that it is very clear now for everybody that we have a very difficult moment now since the signing of Oslo Accords in '93, which was supposed to be a peace accords between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. But as I talked about the collective punishment and the home demolition, for example, I can state that one of the many of the demolitions were held in Area A, which is supposed to be under the whole control of the Palestinian Authority. And the Israeli soldiers come in the midst of the day and demolish any home. They can arrest anybody. They can assassinate also anybody. As you all maybe heard about Basil al-A'rash case in 2017, when he was assassinated in the heart of Ramallah, which is the center of the Palestinian Authority government and all the organizations. Also now we are in a very difficult moment with the declaration of the deal of the century by Donald Trump in last January. And afterwards, the annexation project or plan of Israel, which is not a new thing for us. Annexation is since actually it is the heart of the Zionist project in Palestine. To annex all the Palestinian territories and to try to erase the Palestinian and to make them all refugees, or to just to have more lands with the minimum of Palestinians. One time again, for the representation, I think that Palestinians try to represent themselves by different ways. The official representation and also the youth representation, the movements all over the world. And half of Palestinians actually are outside of Palestine. So when we are talking about the Palestinian Authority, we are mainly talking about Palestinians in West Bank. And you all know about the division between Hamas and Fatah. So Gaza and West Bank, we have two authorities. Okay, I talked too much now. Maybe I give the floor for Somaya or for Sami, but yeah, this is my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, you have a lot to tell, and it's perfect. Maybe to join you, do you think that Biden's new mandate will change the situation in Palestine? Maybe Somaya or Dana, you can take the floor as you feel comfortable.
Sorry, what was the question?
Biden's new mandate, do you think that it will change the situation in Palestine instead of Trump's, as he made the declaration and changing in Palestine?
Okay, I'm not aware of his plans for Palestine yet, but we hope like someone will finally stand with us against the occupation and like give us our rights. So I don't know what his plans for Palestine, but I hope that it helps us our situation here. So I'm not aware of it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
maybe Dana, you can.
I can say a word on
We
that.
had a new question from the.
Sorry.
She wants.
Yeah, we had a new
something.
Oh, sorry.
So I can reply to the question.
Go on.
Okay. Actually, I think that the American strategy for the Palestinian cause is usually the same, whether it is democratic or conservative administration. We all know that the United States of America has supported Israel since its creation. So I do not think that Biden or Trump will change the American plans for supporting always Israel. And we all know that the United States of America is the first ally for Israel. So how we can imagine that Biden will come with another plan for Palestine?
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, we wish so. Renette, do you have another question maybe?
Yeah, someone from the audience asked if there were links between the students in Gaza and the students in the West Bank, and if you were communicating and organizing together.
I think there are a lot of links between our students in Gaza and students in West Bank, but all of them, some of them are virtual, and others think that we can go there and conduct workshops and little projects, but not permanent, just something temporary. So there's a link between the students and writers and people with the smaller projects. There is, but these links are connected with many obstacles because it's not easy for the students in Gaza to travel to West Bank. It needs a lot of work, a lot of time and effort to get there. And of course, it needs the authorities from the occupation. So, and many of the Palestinians, not many, and some of the Palestinians are not allowed to travel there. So they are stuck in Gaza. I think the situation is the same from the students in the West Bank. So it is not, there is connection, but it's not that open connection between us, and it's not permanent.
I can comment on this question, or maybe Sami, if he's always with us.
I think he has an issue, but he's coming back soon. So please.
Okay. Actually, maybe you all know that Gaza is very near to West Bank. It's maybe around 1.5 hours in ride in the car. But actually, I am 27 years old and I have never been in Gaza, and I'm forbidden from going there. As a Palestinian in West Bank, we have to apply for a permit, a special permit to go to Gaza or to go to 48 lands, which is Israel. And if you are an activist, or maybe if you just wrote a comment on Facebook in supporting the resistance, the legitimate Palestinian resistance, you would be unable to take this permit. You would be, if you apply for this permit, they will cancel it just for security reasons. for Israel. So maybe for me, it's easier to go to France now and give a talk in France more than go to Gaza or even to have this connection with Gaza. But we always try to sustain this relation with Gaza and with all Palestinians all over the worldwide to have, to concentrate on our issue and our Palestinian cause, which is one cause. And we actually understand and we recognize how Israel tried to fragment and segregate and isolate all Palestinians and try to make that Palestinians from Gaza, for example, have their own issues and their own struggle to end the siege, for example, or for Palestinians from West Bank to end to destroy the wall or to end the checkpoints. But no, we all know that we have to liberate our Palestinian lands, which was confiscated since 48 lands, or even before 48, since the first Jewish colony in Palestine. Yeah, Sam is coming back.
Yes, he is.
مرحبا. I'm sorry, I am having some problem with my internet.
أهلاً مرحبا سامي. Okay, one more question. Someone is sharing about research about the village of Belin that is apparently known for being an example of Pacific resistance, where there is a Pacific protestation took place. So what can you tell him or her about that, and how does Palestinian old and new generation see in this village? Maybe Sami, you can take the floor as you came back. Belin, it's a village for the people who don't know, located in the Ramallah and Al Birey governorate, yeah. I guess, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, Ramallah, Bil'in experience is one of the most successful experiences of the popular resistance because Bil'in succeeded to free a lot, big piece of land that the separation wall has confiscated. So the ongoing resistance and the Palestinian Bil'in succeeded really to push back the wall for really big pieces of land that the Palestinian got it back. Yeah, this is one of the successful experiences, and Bil'in also paid the price of this struggle because also two martyrs were killed by the Israeli occupation forces in Bil'in because of this struggle, and the people continue because really the Palestinians believe that this is our land, and they struggled for really years. In the end, they achieved that. So this is why Bil'in one of the example of the successful popular resistance, and as well the demolishing in the South Hebron Hills was as well, and also another example. So this is one of really the experiences we are proud of.
If I can have a word on that comment.
Please.
Well, as an oppressed people, it is recognized by the international law that any oppressed people have all the rights to resist in all forms. And the popular resistance is one part of this resistance. And it's not new for Palestinian people. The popular resistance was the basic resistance in the first Intifada, for example. So it's not something that we do not already knew. And also, Israel will criminalizes any form of resistance. So if you use violent resistance or pacific or international law tools, the criminal court, for example, International Criminal Court, all the forms of resistance are criminalized by Israel and by the international community sometimes. So it is very important to say this on this issue.
Thank you, Dana. Maybe I should ask a new question. We had many now. So someone asked if you have some kind of connection with the Israeli youth, and if some Israeli youth are helping you on a regular basis.
This is also a very hard question, but I think that as you are French people who live in France, imagine someone who came in your door and tried to confiscate your home. Can you talk with him peacefully after that? Or to say it very clearly, actually, we consider it as normalization, which is unaccepted for Palestinians, as also all the Jewish youth, the Israeli youth are soldiers or are obliged to do the military service. And so they are in the preservative military. So you can imagine that now if I go out of my home to go to Nablus, I will be on the checkpoint facing a soldier who has maybe 18 years old asking me not to enter. So can I speak with this type of youth?
Okay, another question. Are you guys hoping to get a job quickly after your study and easier like leave Palestine, or do you want to stay there?
Okay, I can go for this. I think it's really hard for us to get any kind of jobs or opportunities here in Gaza. I want to talk about the situation in Gaza because there's a limitation of jobs here, and even if we got our high certificates in education, but it's very hard for us to get a job. But in the case of traveling, also the traveling is very, very, very hard. And to get out of Gaza, especially we are under besiege from all around surrounded Gaza, so we can easy get get visa to travel from the Egyptian side or from the Israeli side. So both sides are both issues are so hard for us to obtain. So no, I think it's very hard for us.
You unmute Sami, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, for me, even if there is the opportunity that not easy for us to leave Palestine forever, for example, for a job. Maybe for a bit, just a little bit, but we will no. I prefer personally to want to spend most of the time in Palestine, or all my time in Palestine.
Someone also just asked if you risk something in participating in this meeting. Or in any forms of peaceful resistance, and if yes, which risk?
Well, you never know. Actually, when I said in my intervention that some people or some students of Birzeit University, for example, they were accused of putting a poster on the wall. They were accused of being in a cultural meeting in Ramallah, for example. It was written in the sentence. So you can never know how Israel estimate every activity you do, or how they estimate if this is an in danger for the Israeli security or not.
I think also, I want to add what Dana said, because even without any charge, you can be arrested according to what Israel act against the Palestinian people. As a Palestinian, you can be for how long they want in the jail without even clear excuse or clear charge, so they can apply. So I think for me as a Palestinian, I don't care a lot, whatever. Even for sometimes can be for a live Facebook, you can be also that you're talking about youth resistance. You could be maybe in jail, you could be in charge with anything. So, but anyway, we don't care a lot about that. I don't care personally.
I think
well, I want to share an anecdote. Sorry, Somaya, go ahead.
It's okay. I think the fact that we are occupied, that all the Palestinians are marked in red for the Israeli occupation, and we are under attack at any time or under arrest at any time. So what we have to lose, I think.
Go ahead, Dana, if you want.
Yeah, I just wanted to share an anecdote with you all. One of the articles in the indictment for a student in Birzeit was that she were making falafel in the campus as an activity actually that we do against the privatization of the cafeteria. So it's an activity against the administration of the university. It has nothing to do with Israel, but this was written in the indictment, and she was sentenced for months to spend in the Israeli jails just for making falafel. It's very ridiculous. So,
yeah, that's crazy. Another common question about the links with the Jewish diaspora, but not necessarily, Israeli people. So all the Jewish around the world, what do you think?
Sorry, what is the question again?
What links you can make about the Jewish diaspora around the world and not necessarily Israeli people?
Well, our issue is not with Jewish. Our issue is with the Israelis. So yes, if there's a Jews that support Palestine, so why not? But Israelis are off limits. So yeah, there is a link maybe. Yeah, it can be.
Well, I want to add on Sumaya's also that there are many solidarity movements outside of Palestine. They have this relation with the Jewish. As she said, our issue is not with Jewish. It is our Zionist Israelis who believe that Palestine is for only Jewish people. So we can have this relation, and we know also that there are many Jewish who do not believe in Israel creation, and they are for Palestinian people's rights and for the self-determination of Palestinians. So why not?
Someone also asked if you have links with European countries and if some European countries are helping you on a regular basis organizing your resistance.
Maybe not countries, maybe movements or nations more than countries, establishments, associations, they help us. And I, as mentioned before, that we have mentors from around the world that helps the Palestinian people to develop their writing skills. So I believe that we have support from all over the world. So yes, not specific countries, but movements or individuals more than countries.
If I can add something, do you think it's a good thing to make the European fundal condition?
Yeah, this is very difficult actually, because now all the civil society, all the NGO, Palestinian NGO, if they wanted to have the financial support of the EU, they have to sign the conditional article. So as the European Union has declared that all the political parties, the Palestinian political parties, as terrorist organization. So now you are, as a Palestinian who works in an NGO, you are obliged to say that, yes, I agree with you, all political parties are terrorists. But actually, this is not true. This is not correct to say, because we know that you have, as an oppressed people, as any people actually, even in France, in America, all over the world, you have the right to organize yourself in political parties and in student associations, for example. So how you can give yourself the right to say that our legitimate resistance is at terrorism, and based on that you forbid the Palestinian NGO from taking the support, the fund actually. So yeah, we have a problem with that, and many Palestinian NGOs have refused to sign this clause, sorry, and they refused also the money, because unconditioned money will not help us to achieve our rights.
I'm sharing totally your point.
Yeah, but also there are many European NGOs or also from the Americas who support the Palestinian NGOs without these conditioned clauses. So yeah.
Let's see what will happen. Annette, do you have another question maybe?
I think we have one last question, which is a really broad question, and ask you, in your opinion, what would be the better deal to find a political situation in Palestine? Maybe this wasn't clear.
What is the deal, or what's the what?
It's someone who asked, in your opinions, what would be the ultimate ideal political situation in Palestine?
Okay, so achieving the rights is the very basic solution for any conflict in the world. So you all know that there are many refugees. Around 7 million of the Palestinians are refugees. And not all of them are considered by the UNRWA, by the way. So UNRWA considered as 5 million of the refugees, but there is refugees who are not considered. So the return of all refugees to their own homes is the very basic solution for our conflict. And then we can talk about a one democratic state for all the citizens based on the civil rights and the democratic on the democratic solution. Yeah, I think this is the very basic issue, and to hold Israel accountable for all the crimes that were taken in the Palestinian land.
Okay, thank you. Someone wanted to add congratulations to all. It was great to have young people involved like that. Palestinian, this doesn't come as a surprise. And in French, bravo aux organisatrices. Let's keep fighting the good fight together. Thanks all for your participation. These testimonies were extremely rich, and I hope people have learned something. Thanks to all the technicians involved who are not visible, but whose presence was essential. We were recording all the lecture, the conference. So if you would like to share it to people who couldn't be there, or if you want to read it again, you could find it on the AFPS and the FFIPP or Palestine 33 pages. And if you have any question to ask us, we are available in mail address. And thank you again. Thanks a million.
Thank you for organizing.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. مع السلامة.
مع السلامة. Thank you all. Thank you.